Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to wake up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake on up. It's another week. It's another edition of Wake Up War Chant right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. You already know that. This show, though, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. There are 3 locations over in the College Town District, Central, Madison Social, and Township. All right, let's stick to the formula, Corey. Let's talk about life for a little bit. How are you? How was your weekend? Regale me with tales.
It was good, buddy. It was a lot of Little League baseball, a lot of 9-year-old baseball. Apparently that's all my weekends are for the next, for all of June. But it was good Father's Day. Brady played in a tournament, played a couple games, pitched, played okay, not great. His dad wasn't fired up with the way he played necessarily, but he did get a hit to end the game, to end his day, and then pitched well. So we had that going for us.
Is there a lot of coaching going on during the rides home, or do you just flush it and just let him be a kid?
No, I'll give you one example. So I don't ever get on him. I do get on him when we practice together, but on the way home, so he was playing center field, and they hit a line drive right at him, but it was hit really hard, and Brady came in for it, and it was over his head. And at the last minute, he realized, oh, no, I misjudged this, and he leaped for it. And he was really all hard on himself for that play afterwards. And I'm like, Brady, that is the hardest ball for an outfielder to make by far. A line drive hit right at you. And I said, even if you'd have been running back full speed as soon as he hit it, that ball's probably over your head. You didn't cost your team the game. Y'all weren't going to beat that team. And so I was trying to pick him up from that one play. But that's basically where it is. It's just like if there's something like that, or if he was swinging at balls, he swung at a couple balls over his head. Just kind of a nice, polite reminder to cut that nonsense out. But other than that, it was they're usually pretty fun rides home.
All right, so there's no chase excellence and then perfection and find excellence on the way there, and that's the only acceptable route to success?
No, but I did tell him if he swings another ball over his head, then his walk-up song is going to be Hello by Adele.
So there's walk-up songs in this league now, this All-Star League of yours. This is like
they
serious.
all have them. It's nuts. And some teams will get in fights back and forth because one team's playing their music too loud in between innings when the other team's trying to play their music, and it's like, good grief, everyone. Let's just play ball. None of this matters. But it's crazy how seriously it's taken up here in Georgia. I assume it's probably that way in Tallahassee too. I've never been to all-star games and travel ball games, but it's pretty remarkable how serious some of these parents take it at 9 and 10 years old.
You know what we should do is maybe have some sort of random drawing where I'll pick a name out of a hat of like a random team in the Tallahassee area, and I'll go cheer for them, but I'll pretend like I'm the uncle of like one of the kids, and I'll just be really obnoxious, like not to embarrass him so much, but just to kind of maybe pick him up and just yell at the umps, like, come on, Blue!
Yeah, one of those guys. Outside. Call him like your love life, both ways. That's always a good one. I haven't used that yet in 9-year-old baseball. I'm waiting until Brady gets to high school.
All right, good, man. You got to sit on the good stuff. Hey, yeah. Let's touch a little bit about baseball. We need to probably have a segment on the program called Nothing to Do with the Knowles, which is what like 60% of the show is sometimes. Sorry, hardcore football fan. We're trying. It's June. We'll get there eventually.
Middle of June.
Yeah, but stuff that doesn't really relate necessarily directly to the Knowles, but this is a baseball topic, so we'll talk about it since we're coming off baseball with you. There's this great photo of David Pierce, who's the head coach for Texas, who got absolutely stomped in their opener in Omaha against Arkansas. He's sitting in he's actually wearing, this is kind of a weird thing too, he's wearing Augie Garrido's jersey. He's wearing the 16. I don't like, Texas has really taken ownership over Augie Garrido, like he never coached anywhere else and never won any College World Series anywhere else, like his whole life. It's really bizarre kind of how they're trying to take ownership over that. But anyhow, so he's actually, David Pierce, the new head coach for Texas, is actually the guy who replaced Augie Garrido, is wearing Augie Garrido's number 16 jersey during their run here in Omaha. And that doesn't really point on the conversation. The conversation here is that there's a sign in the dugout, and this is actually attributed to Augie. And the sign says, the world treats winners a lot different than it treats losers. And isn't that the mantra you would think would come from a guy like Augie Garrido? Like the men who win at a high level, that win championships at a high level, I don't know. There's so much mythology we like to put on those guys, and I think maybe a guy like Dabo's starting to break it up a little bit, that we think you can be a little bit of a human being. But like, I see that sign, I'm like, that sign is probably not hanging anywhere around any other teams, by and large, and kind of maybe talk a little about Hauser Stadium and maybe the dugout there on the first base line in Tallahassee. But I saw that.
Well, they wouldn't have an Augie quote up.
Right, true. Touche. But I think what 11's thing is it's not about me, it's about us. It's always about us. Like, that's just, that's like the whole family thing. That's the whole aesthetic of good vibes. And I don't know, man. I just still think sports is just a bunch of tough SOBs need to be tough SOBs to win. So that's the thing that stood out for me this weekend.
So you like the quote? Because I think it's a goofy quote. Number one, so it's long been documented on Wake Up War Chant that Texas has been up to Omaha 30 times without winning the thing, Aslan. I mean, so were those guys losers? Yeah. Is that the message? I mean, and I'm being honest. Like, is that the message? Is that how you read it? Like, if you don't win the national championship, you're a loser? No. Or is he just talking about in life?
I think it's probably an effort thing. Go out there and to remind them maybe to do their best. I don't know if you really need a reminder when you're that far along in life and you're in Omaha. But, yeah, I mean, you're out there, and it's not just like we made it to Omaha, sigh of relief, the season's a success. We need to win this thing because as winners, we will be treated a lot different than the team who walks out here losing. I just think like a guy, I could just see like an old grizzled guy like Augie Garrido saying something like that. And it's like, hell yes. Like, that's the stuff I want to hear about. And right now we don't hear that like in any program, but we're coming off a national title in softball, and we got the back-to-back national champion in golf, Brooks Koepka.
How about that guy? Good grief.
Is there anybody, let me go hyperbole, let me take your shtick and let me twist it on you and even take it like 2 steps further maybe. Is there anybody else from Florida State University that's an athlete that you would rather be right now than Brooks Koepka? I think I'd rather be Brooks Koepka than not Tiger. That'd be also Tiger Woods one here, but than Jameis.
Oh yeah, because the sport. I would love to be. It would be awesome to be good at golf. Not even good, elite, like incredible at golf. That would be. I mean, just think how much fun your life is to be able to. Any course you play, I'm like, I'll shoot a 70 there. That'd be fun. I mean, I've never shot I don't know that I've ever broken 95 back when I used to play. It's just golf. Golf kind of sucks. But I would say Buster Posey probably.
Okay, you're still going to. I don't know, man. Like, I'll be that guy. I'll be secure in my masculinity, and I'll say, like, I don't know. I think Brooks Koepka, I'd be more fearful about bringing Brooks Koepka around my lady friend if I had one than I would old Gerald. Not that Gerald's not a dashing young man in his own right, but like, dude, Brooks Koepka he's got it made right now. And not even so much he's coming off another
young too, right? He's 27 or 28 or whatever he is. He's young, so he's going to be doing this. And golfers can play until they're 50 or 60. So he theoretically should be doing this for a long time. Buster's got the MVP. He's got the 3 World Series rings. He's got he's accomplished almost everything you can accomplish. And I like baseball better than golf. It would be awesome to be a baseball player to me, even though he plays the hardest position. I think that would be really, really fun. Luke Weaver has a pretty cool life too, as long as he stays in the bigs and stays in the rotation. That's a pretty cool to be a major league starter because you get paid really well and you only have to play every 5 days.
Yeah. Not bad. Kind of like me right now during the summer. I just work like once every 5 days, just living the dream.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, Brooks Koepka,
absolutely.
Brooks Koepka's 28. He's 6'1", 186, which I'm like, hey man, that's about how I'm built, but I don't look that good when I'm on TV. He's like jacked, like he's like that 186 or whatever. He's carrying that all up above the waist, man. He's got like guns and everything. But yeah,
I love it when you talk about guys' physiques.
Hey man,
that's what makes this show.
I'm comfortable with these things, man.
I know you are. I am too, buddy. He's a good-looking dude.
You got to tip your cap when you got to tip your cap. I'm not sitting here like trying to heap praise on Chris Collinsworth or anybody that's just absolutely. Terrible to.
Well, what's crazy about Koepka is that how many tournaments has he won overall? Like 3 in his career,
right?
And 2 of them are the U.S. Open.
Yeah, he's like the Dos Equis guy. Like I don't win every tournament, but when I do, it's the U.S. Open.
That's unbelievable. I mean, that's a really hard tournament to win, and he's done it. It'd be like a poker player who only wins the World Series of Poker, the main event. I mean, that's really, really hard to do.
Or it'd be like
he's 2 years in a row is nuts.
It'd be like a guy who only wins College World Series or doesn't make it to regionals. Either gets gets the ring or just doesn't even make
the Florida Marlins. Although he's better than the Florida Marlins he's won a lot of money. He's not just a Johnny come lately where he wins the U.S. Open and disappears the rest of the year. He contends a lot. He makes a lot of money. I think he was on the Ryder Cup or played in it or was close to it. I mean, he's won a lot of money. He's really good, but to break through twice, to only have 3 career wins, and 2 of them are the biggest tournament in the country. That's neat, man. I talk about a guy that is clutch when it matters. I mean, he's in contention. He wins the thing.
Yeah, 3 overall tournament victories in his PGA career. The U.S. Open, obviously, this past weekend up in Shinnecock Hills, which was an absolute disaster for about probably 54 holes of that entire tournament. It was just under absolute chaos. Sunday, they finally kind of figured it all out with the greens and the moisture.
Yeah, I'm not a golfer. I'm not a golf aficionado. I mean, I follow it. I know who's good, but I don't play it. And I certainly don't understand all the rules. But, man, people got so mad at Mickelson. I mean, I was on Twitter, and I'm like, what did he do? Did he punt a baby? Like, I saw all these tweets about what an awful person Phil was, and he should be ashamed and DQ'd, and I assume he punted a baby or kicked a small dog. I didn't quite understand the vitriol.
Yeah, this is like me trying to explain the World Cup to, my friends that are like, well, how come they're not doing this? How come they do this? Why don't they do this? And it's just there's a whole culture and subset of rules to that game of soccer that you can't compare to anything else. Just the same way there's with golf. There's just the whole – the importance that's placed on etiquette and sportsmanship and gentlemanly displays of, whatever you want to call it, is just it supersedes, and the people that subscribe to that and love the game because of the way all the frills around it. When you do something like that, it's like a huge affront to the integrity of the game for some reason. So yeah, the green was playing terrible, and he hit the ball while it was still in motion, which gives you a 2-shot penalty. And his whole explanation was he just wanted to get the hole over with. I mean, he was pretty much out of contention. He felt like it was going to run off the green, and he might even been in a more poor position to try to get up and down and get done with that hole. It looked silly, and that's what I think. It was visually jarring for people who watch golf and realize it's such a very stoic, important game played by very buttoned down, starched human beings. That when they saw that, like, wow, that's something that I do when I'm playing on the course after 5 beers on a Saturday with my buddies. Like, that should not be something that Phil Mickelson's doing. Now, I thought it was hilarious. But Andy North, who does commentary for ESPN, was totally beside himself over it. He did make one point, though, saying that he doesn't think Phil would have ever have done that in Augusta. And then Tom Rinaldi asked him why not. He's like, I just think he has more respect for the people that do the tournament in Augusta than that he wouldn't do something like that. And that's that's the point, though. The course was so horribly difficult to play on Saturday. Like, what else did you want him to do? It was, I don't know. You couldn't play. Everybody was talking about how terrible the course was, the conditions. It was way too dry. The greens were playing way too fast. The ball couldn't sit anywhere. So, I mean, the guy he flaunted the rules almost in a way, but it's the integrity of the game. But there's laws, there's rules, and there's spirits of the rules, and I don't think he broke it. Like John Daly did something similar in a U.S. Open 10.
Didn't he just lead, though? He just picked up his ball and left.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. Like, John Daly smacked at it like he was a hockey player taking a slap shot. It was like that was a bad display of sportsmanship. Phil was like, to me, it was just a funny thing. Like, I laughed at it. I thought it was funny. But yeah, that hurt a lot of people in the fields. Like, right.
I guess, man. Okay. I was like, oh, well, he got a penalty.
Two-stroke
it was a 2-shot penalty, and he still had to make the putt afterwards. I'm like, all right, that seems about right. And, I was just – I get it that it's almost like he's being a bit of a baby and, like, not taking his medicine. But, golly, people reacted. I'm like, man, I guess I just don't understand the sport and, like you said, the etiquette and the protocol, because I was like, man, it's in the rule book that he can do that. He didn't do anything that was against he did, and he got penalized. So I felt like everything took care of itself, but they wanted him to sit there and just wear it and just take it until the hole was over.
Yeah, some people wanted him to get, ejected from the field. I don't even know the proper term. They want him basically to get disqualified from the entire tournament.
Banned for life. They should ban him for life.
Yeah, hopefully they don't do that. Phil's a good dude. So, yeah, again, Brooks Koepka shoots a 68 on Father's Day Sunday to win the 2018 U.S. Open. A cool $2.16 million coming his way. Daniel Berger, also a Knoll, tied for 6th. He shot a 73. He'll walk away $361,000 richer. So that's pretty cool for Trey Jones. But yeah, if you don't know enough about golf, or if you do know a lot about golf, there's the golf shows, and the golf shows still going on with our own Jeff Cameron, 3 to 6 p.m. weekdays right here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, and Florida State golf head coach Trey Jones.
Yeah, they have a show together on XM, and that's, man, what a neat thing for Trey and for the program. And that's, again, that all that stuff matters when you're trying to recruit kids. If you can show them, Florida State is a big deal. Berger finished top 10. You had 2 Florida State products finishing in the top 10. That's a big deal, man. And you got a guy that's repeat U.S. Open national champs. All the golf fans around the country know where Brooks Koepka went to school. That's a big deal when you're trying to recruit the next the next wave of really good players in this country. And Trey gets a lot of really good players, and he has a really good program. That's a guy, when we talk about 11 too and championships, I would really hope before Trey Jones is done at Florida State, he can get himself a national title too, because he's had some really good teams and some really good players come through.
Fair enough, friend. Fair enough. Hey, people are probably all mad that we haven't talked about football and we talked about golf. Let me upset them even more. Let's talk about Jimbo Fisher right after this. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up War Chant.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
We grow good old tomatoes and homemade wine, and country boy can survive. Country folks can survive.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up War Chant, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. I feel like my voice almost just cracked there.
Sounded good, man. You sound great. Little Peter Brady action.
Yeah, guess so. That's what I got to do. All right, so I've talked about we got to have some grown-up conversations on the radio sometimes. Corey, we got to be adults about things. And I saw a thread on the Tribal Council over on War Chant. If you missed out on the Father's Day promotion, shame on you, but you can still get at least 30 free days. Sign up now. Use the War Chant 30 promo code. And Marty Smith is doing his whole, I'm folksy and I'm going around the country being folksy with folksy people. Mm-hmm. And it plays well to folksy people at home. So he started off in Tuscaloosa, did a feature with Nick Saban. Nick's got his own basketball league or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, here goes ESPN slurping up to the SEC again. And then Marty Smith went and hung out with the new head football coach at College Station, Texas, which only, further fueled the anti-ESPN, anti-SEC sentiment on the Tribal Council. Now, I had to fight the good fight for 5 years of my life, Corey. I spent 4 years in Jackson, Mississippi, 1 year in Dothan, Alabama. And I sat there and I valiantly fought and held up the ideals of the Bring Your A-Game conference at the ACC. At the end of the day, though, Corey, between you, me, and all of our friends listening, do I want to watch NC State play, I don't know, Virginia Tech? Or would I rather watch LSU play Ole Miss? Probably want to watch LSU play Ole Miss. All things equal. I probably won't watch it now because I need to have more intimate knowledge of the ACC. But I just don't realize, or I just don't understand why we can't accept the fact that we do play good football in the ACC and that our best teams in the ACC can go toe-to-toe with teams in the SEC. But at the end of the day, it means more stuff in the SEC. It actually does have a tangible carryover to the way they do play each other in the sports that matter.
Yeah, so, sure. I don't want to watch Wake Forest ever play football unless I'm paid to, which luckily I have been. I have a great job, and I have been for the last 11 years paid to watch Wake Forest play football every year. So that's fun, but I would never watch them otherwise. I get that. I don't need to see Ole Miss play a lot either, though. Or Vanderbilt or,
oh, right, yeah.
Tennessee. I don't know the last time I watched a Tennessee game. Other than maybe when they're playing Georgia occasionally, if I can. I mean, Tennessee's been mediocre and middling forever. And so I think but Tennessee has done stuff in our lifetimes, and they still have a brand. LSU has Coach Orgeron as their head coach, for crying out loud. But they're still a brand. So I think that speaks to football fans like you and I, like, oh, LSU's playing whoever. This is an important game. But if NC State's playing whoever, it doesn't feel important. Although, quite frankly, the last 5 years, NC State and LSU are about the same program. Yeah. As far as wins, as far as bowl wins, it's about the same. in Kentucky, and Kentucky doesn't ever do anything. Kentucky's like their Boston College. But but it is because we grew up with when a game like LSU versus Alabama would matter, or LSU. That's one of the that's a big boy in college football. They've won national titles, and there aren't a lot of those in the ACC. Like other than Florida State and Clemson, who's the last ACC team to win a title in the ACC? Georgia Tech, right? In '90. So that's kind of where I think that comes from, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the success is fairly equal when you compare those teams. But again, it's for some reason, you look at the other message boards from like a Louisville or like an NC State, and they're not all that hyped up on stuff. And I don't know, that needs to kind of fuel the fire and stuff. And at the end of the day, like the guys that are you compare, like Dave Dorn could walk in front of me right now, and I probably want to know Dave Dorn. No offense, NCC. I'm not trying to really pick on them. Like I would know Steve Adazio, but I'm being honest. Like, a lot of the ACC coaches could walk by me, and I'd be like, I have no idea who that is. But like the SEC coaches are all these faces that you just keep seeing. And I don't know, maybe it's a self-fulfilling prophecy because ESPN's constantly propping that. But anyhow, as I go on that tangent, what we really want to talk about is maybe some insight. He's been asked why he left Florida State, Jimbo, but he's really given weird sort of non-answers. Not that this is groundbreaking. But Marty Smith on his old program here was on horseback with the former head football coach of Florida State. And let me just shut up and play it.
Why was now the right time to leave Florida State?
I don't know if it was the right time. It was just the right situation. Like I said, I had no intentions to ever leave Florida State. I loved it there. Still, I have great friends there, admiration for everything that went on there, and we had great success. But, it's not that what Florida State didn't have or didn't do. It was just as, Scott Wood was here as the AD, and he said, well, just let me tell you a little bit about A&M. And he started digging into it, and it really started enticing me. And then the more I looked into it, and the more he talked about it. And like I said, I try to make decisions based on, 5, 10, 15 years down the road where things are going and what you do. And I just think this place could, it's got a chance to have some unbelievably untapped potential. It has great resources and great people. There's great people here, and they have great commitment to success.
See, that didn't make me. I thought, like, that's a fairly thoughtful answer, but the people around the program that heard that are just like, he's a sociopath. Stop liking him, Aslan.
Well, but that was a perfectly fine answer. I think the one thing that he should have always harped on that he never really did back then. Look, he got $75 million, and he gets his football mansion right away, and he feels like he's going to be able to get whatever he asks for at A&M, which he probably will. I get all that, and at Florida State, there was a lot of infighting, but trying to get stuff done. It was never just, okay, Jimbo, whatever you need. It always seemed like it was pulling teeth a little bit. I get that. But if he'd have just rode with the answer of, look, they haven't won anything since color TV. I want to help them achieve something they've never achieved. That's enticing to me. Just like it was enticing to get Florida State back to the top of the mountain after they had dipped. I wanted to do that for that great program. Now for Texas A&M, I want to make them a great program. That's really enticing to me. It's a great new challenge. And no shots at all at Florida State, which he didn't take there on his horse, which was awesome. That's good. I just wish he had done that 6 months ago. That's all. I think if he'd answered it like that 6 months ago, instead that, man, my voice just cracked too. I think it's contagious. I think if he'd answered it like that 6 months ago, I don't think Florida State fans would have had so much of a problem with the way he left. Because I think a lot of it is just, it seemed like he was always taking these thinly veiled shots at the program that made him a national champion. And I think that hurt people's feelings, quite frankly. But that was a perfectly diplomatic, well-reasoned, it sounded heartfelt. I don't know that it was, but it sounded heartfelt answer.
Well, why can't you draw lines in the sand, and then when people pick the other side on you and you leave, why can't you just try to point that out again? Like, I'm being petty and vindictive, I guess. I guess maybe I'm immature. But that's
what do you mean?
I just
what out?
This was a divorce. I know people want to act like they have divorces in life and it's a smooth and easy divorce. Like, who leaves a football program and everybody's copacetic with it? There's nothing he could have ever said. I know you talked about, you just laid out what he should have said the whole time. But I think even if he said that, people would have found a way to get pissed off about that too. There's no right way to leave a program. And that's my whole I just think that everyone thought that there was some sort of right way to do it, and he didn't do it. But I don't think there's a right way when you leave. There just never is.
I think the way, and I don't know a lot of Central Florida fans, but I don't think they're upset at Scott Frost.
Because they're not as passionate about it.
I don't think South Florida fans were upset at Taggart for leaving for Oregon. But when you're Florida State, nobody leaves Florida State. That's just dumb. And I think that's what Florida State fans thought. It's like, who? What? You have one of the best programs in the country, man. What? You're not leaving for the NFL. You're leaving for slappy A&M? Well, that's crazy. I think that's kind of where a lot of it stems from, is that he didn't leave for Alabama and he didn't leave for the Jets. He left for a program that literally hasn't won anything since, again, color TV, 1939, all that. I think that's what was so confusing and confounding and upsetting, right? It'd be like your wife leaving you, I don't know, for a dude that's 500 pounds.
For Chris
You'd be like,
Collinsworth.
what?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, I mean,
But you'd still be upset that your wife left you for whoever. That's probably not a great analogy. That's a dumb analogy. Scratch that.
I just think that the conditions were created for him to leave, so I can't be really upset at him for leaving.
Sure. All right. I mean, and I think, honestly, and I might be 100% wrong, and I'll own it when it happens, I think Florida State's in a better place now. I just do. I don't think Jimbo is about to turn this thing into a power again. I think it needed fresh blood. I think it needed a new face. I think the fans were ready for it, and I certainly know I was ready for it, and the players are probably ready for it. I hope it works out. Well, I don't know. I do. I hope it works out for A&M. Jimbo was good to me, and we had a good relationship up there until the end. I hope he wins some games there and makes them a relevant program, because they've never been one really. But I think both programs are in a better place than they were a year ago.
How about this?
I get why fans can be upset. I get why at the end they were always being told what they didn't have, whether it was directly from him or it was insinuated, what Florida State didn't have, and it never felt like they were appreciated for what they did have.
See, I mean, that's not his job to me. His job to me is not to placate me and make me feel like I'm a great fan and that he loves. It's just that's not his job.
Man, if you're trying to get money, it's part of the job. Yeah. You're trying to get money for the stuff you want to build. I mean, you can't make people feel like they're beholden to you. I mean, they won plenty of games before anybody had ever heard of Jimbo Fisher. So, I mean, I felt like that was kind of lost a little bit at the end.
Yeah, I'm just that's where, and I'm not saying people can't be upset. I mean, the comments that he still gets are ridiculous to me. It's just like, man, if you love the new guy so much, which I'm totally fine with it, why is there still so much animus with him? I
don't understand, like, if people were upset by what we just heard on the horse, there was no reason to be upset there. That's just people being upset because their feelings are still hurt. It's still, I guess, raw to them. But there was nothing that was at all, to me anyway, inciting from what he was talking about on the horse. He was on a horse, right? I haven't seen it.
He's on a horse.
It sounded like they were on a horse.
They're on horseback with twangy, introspective music playing in the background. Very good musical choice. Jimbo never. I never thought he was a horse guy. Jimbo, if you watch the whole thing, actually, Jimbo said that before he was even born, his grandfather bought him a pony and had it delivered to the family ranch or the family farm, and it was waiting for him as soon as he was born, and as soon as he could actually sit up, he was riding horses, man. Riding horses.
Well, that's something else that Jimbo and I have in common.
Yeah, fantastic. Here's one thing, though.
I've been on a horse once in my life, and it was at my honeymoon in Maui.
Ooh,
which again, humble brag. And yeah, it was in a pineapple field. And the name of my horse was Tiger Woods, and I'm pretty sure he might have been 35 years old. They might have renamed him. He might have been originally named Arnold Palmer. But he was on his last legs, and it was still really scary, and I wanted to jump off because it felt like at any time he might just start running and want to be done with carrying people on his back, and I would have to jump off.
They're strong creatures. They're very powerful creatures.
Oh, my gosh. They're incredible creatures.
Let me ask, or not even ask you this. I guess I'm going to make a statement, and you can kind of poke fun at it or however you want to go about it. Like, I'm over it. Like, I get it. He's gone. Like, whatever. I'm trying to think of, what is, the one thing, negative or positive, that he could have realistically done to have changed my outlook or the way I view him, because I obviously clearly still have a overwhelmingly positive outlook on who Jimbo Fisher is. I'm upset that he left. I don't like necessarily the way he did some things, but I, at the end of the day, understand that he was pissed off here and felt he deserved more, and I frankly felt that he probably deserved to get more of what he wanted. But anyhow, the thing that I keep coming back to, and we talked about it almost in a roundabout way last week when we talked about success at Florida State and how you have to win that last game in November for things to be successful. If Jimbo left here being 2-6 against the Gators, I am probably, this whole conversation is totally different. I do agree with you. I think ultimately, at least financially, the school is well positioned, much more better now with him gone and that contract being off the books because there was no guarantee or maybe even likelihood that it was going to turn around with him. So to get that taken off your hands is a huge boon, and then you get to try something radically different, and hopefully it works out. But that's the thing that I keep coming back to, and that's me as a fan. It was so important to me that he kept people from Florida the hell shut up for that long. That is just such a powerful thing that I don't realize. I mean, nobody, I think, really fully grasps it. I think a lot of people almost are kind of, Florida fans are a punchline. Not that they ever have not been a punchline, but they're just kind of this distraction off in the corner. You just wait. We'll see in November. We'll beat you, and you can just bow down to us then. Like the fact that's what I really kind of revere about him more than anything. The national championship's a big deal, but to have that sort of dominance over Florida, like if that changed, I would not look at him the way I do. So I don't want people to think that, like, I have this weird sort of like affinity for him for, because he is a jerk. I just give him a lot of leeway because of what he did for me as a fan, and that's keep Florida fans, again, shut the hell up for so long.
Sure, I get that, and I think a lot of Florida State fans appreciate what he did to Florida and Miami. They should. He was whatever he was, 12-2 against them, or 14-2, however, whatever the math is. He only lost to them once each. My counter to that would be, I guess, and it's not really a counter, it's just something to consider. It wasn't like he was beating Danny Werfel.
Oh, stop that.
They were some bad. He beat two of those wins were against Florida teams that didn't go to bowl games. The only good team Florida had in the whole run beat them. And EJ threw 6 picks. I mean, that is the reality of it. It wasn't – beating Florida is great because it is a rival, but it's not anything – it wasn't like an incredible accomplishment to beat those Florida teams. He should have. He was favored in all of them. So he did what he was supposed to do. But again, I get that. 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're not going to really remember how bad Florida was this decade. It's no great shakes to beat these Gator teams. I mean, he hasn't beaten – he hadn't played a good quarterback – since I hadn't played a good quarterback at Florida. So that's, that would be my one thing that needs to be considered. It wasn't great Florida teams.
But
they were always great Florida State teams.
Florida's still beating Georgia. Florida's still beating Georgia. They're still beating Tennessee during this whole time they sucked.
That's what they did, and that's all they beat were those two teams somehow. Yeah. Got Mark Richt fired. But, yeah, the Florida-Tennessee thing is incredible because Florida hasn't been good. But they weren't beaten. I don't know who else has winning streaks against Florida over the last few years, but I assume there's a good many of them. I know Georgia Southern is at least on a 1-game winning streak against them.
Don't you ever forget that one, anybody. We'll never
Without completing a pass, baby.
All right, I'm done with that. I'm sorry, everybody. We'll get back on track. He's Corey Maslon. Wake Up War Chance, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Come right back after this.
The Sod Cemetery, Osceola and Renegade, and of course, the War Chant. These are great traditions known to all Seminole fans. If you are a card-carrying, garnet and gold-wearing Nole, don't you deserve a site that is truly dedicated to covering FSU sports? WarChant.com's staff has over 50 years of experience covering the Seminoles. WarChant.com is the only FSU outlet with a full-time recruiting analyst in Tallahassee. Plus, it's the only site with a full-time videographer and a daily podcast, 100% dedicated to FSU sports. Why act like Gators and settle for second best? WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.
Maslon, he's Corey. It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Show's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. Okay, I lied, and I don't take any pleasure in this. I don't want to talk about him anymore, but I had this sort of thought that maybe this will get us back into talking about football in the future tense, although we got to look back on the past, unfortunately. So, Corey, I guess, a big thing here, obviously, is how horrible the offense looked last year, by and large, and we don't know how good the team would have or not been if DeAndre would have been healthy. I think there's a consensus that this team would have been a lot better had he been healthy, maybe 10-2, maybe even 11-1, something crazy like that. Some people want to believe, which is maybe not that far out the belief system. And imagine if we did go 11-1 and then the guy left. But, I think we've had fair criticism from people, maybe in the Jimbo Chronicles and even the fans posting on the Tribal Council over on warchant.com, that previous coach did not perhaps simplify things down enough for his quarterback last year, the true freshman quarterback.
Right.
I had this sort of theory of maybe he did, possibly, but maybe the whole problem is that he did make it simple and that his offense, what he's used to, it has to be of the most complex nature and operated by a person who has of the most utmost knowledge of it. And by simplifying it, you're taking away, like, the beauty of Willie is simplicity. If you try to make Willie stuff too complex, that would, it would stutter and make it sputter out. But maybe Jimbo's whole thing, if we made things, maybe he did make it simple, and that's what the problem was ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
believe it. It's fine.
That.
That's fine. You can disagree. We're not here to agree on everything.
It didn't look a whole lot different to me, and it looked like there was still a lot on the quarterback at the line of scrimmage that he was having to look at really quickly and having to point things out. Not really quickly, I'm sorry. It took forever. It'd be 38 seconds between plays. It was still a lot on him trying to figure out what to do with the ball. And again, I know that's part of the quarterback position. That kid had not played a college football game, and then is having to play Bradley Chubb. It was just hard. And I thought, I remember, and we talked about it a lot on headlines because that's what we thought we were going to see, is the E.J. Manuel game at Wake Forest back when Ponder got hurt, so 2009. Man, he made that. It was nothing but rollouts, sprint outs, easy passes to the tight end in the flat, get him some confidence, and just do that back and forth down the field. And I know NC State was better than probably that Wake Forest team, but he really, really tailored that offense to E.J. Manuel when E.J. Manuel was thrust in the starting role after Punter separated his shoulder. And we thought we were going to see more of that, just quick passes, dump passes, get it out in time, get it out in space, a lot of play-action rollouts, but it was not that. It was four wides, and let's scream at him when he gets off the field. To me, he might have dumbed it down, and I'm sure he'd tell us he did. I mean, he's not really a great coach if you can't tailor it to your personnel. So I hope he tried to, but it never manifested itself. It was just a cluster. The whole season was an abysmal display of offense, to put it. Well, that wasn't polite.
That's fine.
To put it truthfully, it was an abysmal display.
We don't have to be nice. We don't have to. Well,
with Cam Akers, you had Cam Akers in the backfield, and Patrick, who's a nice running back, and Auden Tate, who's was a good college receiver, and you just never, and Izzo, and you never had any sort of semblance of a normal Florida State offense.
Okay, well then, maybe dovetailing into that then, we talked about the floor and the ceiling for Florida State, and, you want to be able to kind of win 10 games around here because that makes you feel good regardless of what happens by and large. But, I mean, how much time do we give Willie? I don't want to get into that sort of conversation about that, but, I mean, do we have an idea of how much he has to tailor what he wants to do to what he has, or is he in a good position? Does he have what he wants fairly right out the gate, game one, year one? Because I feel like he has to, right? To a certain
I mean, I don't think it should be. Let's just say the learning curve for James Blackman this season should not, if he's the starting quarterback, should not look like it did this past season. He's not going to be asked to do a ton. You got to think it's one or two reads, and it's a lot of running plays, and they're really quick, and you get a defense on your heels, as opposed to them always knowing when you're going to snap the ball because there's two on the play clock. I just think all of that, makes it easier for the quarterback if he's healthy. And the Oregon quarterback was really good in that system when he wasn't hurt. He played really well in that system, and I'm sure it had similarities to what he was used to before Willie got there. But not everything is the same, and none of the terminology was the same. But he seemed to learn it pretty quickly, and they were a good offense when that quarterback was healthy. When that quarterback wasn't healthy, they became a different type of offense, and it just wasn't nearly as effective. And again, I guess the point could be made, well, he went through what Jimbo had to go through, and he wasn't good at it either. Well, that's true. I don't think he had as much talent on that Oregon offense as Jimbo had at his disposal last year And neither one of them were very good without their starting quarterbacks, I guess would be the correct way to put it.
They also, I mean, Herbert was also there when they played like Southern Utah, Nebraska, and Wyoming. So it wasn't like he was.
Hey, don't sleep on the Cowboys, man. The Cowboys, Josh Allen, that team, that's a legit team, buddy.
Strong arm. See, this is the thing that makes me kind of uncomfortable sometimes about diving too far into X's and O's. Well, I mean, you pointed it out right there. Like, at any point in a meeting, is Rick Trickett, and this is like presumptuous of me, some guy who never played football, debating a guy who has a fairly sterling reputation in the sport. Like, hey, Jimbo, my guys, like, let's maybe snap the ball with like 8 on the clock. That way they don't time down the snap count and just can whip us. Like, little things like that. Are those not discussed? Like, if you can see, and I'm not trying to denigrate you, Corey. I mean, you watch enough football that, I mean, it's not, quantum physics. You can get a good idea of what works and what doesn't work and why it doesn't. But even the simplest thing like that, they couldn't get that figured out to make things that much more, I don't know, just smooth for a young kid. Like, all right, let's do a quick call so he's not having, they don't know every single thing that's coming their way.
Apparently not, and I've always made this point when Florida State got the nickname False Start University. Man, it's hard. Those linemen are sitting there in that stance for 25 seconds sometimes, or 20 seconds. Man, Oregon, when Willie was there, or before Willie got there, when what was his name? Helfrich?
Helfrich.
I should know his name.
Mark
I can't remember it.
Mark Helfrich.
Yeah. When those linemen, when they got set, they were snapping it. But at Florida State, those linemen are set, and then you're pointing all over the place. And 14 seconds later, you might snap it. Well, when you're in that stance for so long, it's you can false start occasionally, and I thought that had a good bit to do with it too. But yeah, you would think that would come up, but I mean, who knows, man? Last year was such an anomaly. Last year was not who Jimbo Fisher is as a head coach. It was who Jimbo Fisher was when it feels like he was maybe walking out the door as a head coach. But I don't think that's the guy that Texas A&M is going to get. I think they're going to get a guy that's engaged and ready. Again, I would point out that he didn't take many coaches with him. Don't think he asked many of them to come with him. Yep. So if they weren't good enough for Texas A&M, you kind of wonder what he was doing with some of the assistants that he had at Florida State. Did he really have the best coaching staff available? If he didn't want many of those guys to go with him, I think that tells you all you need to know about those hires. But, I do think that he will be a good it always sounds like I'm ripping Jimbo, and it really is. It kind of is just it's all predicated on this last year because I think he wasn't ready. It was ridiculous that was his quarterback situation with an injury, that's who he had that Cosentino was on the team, and that he couldn't be counted on even in that moment to be the starter. Why was he there? What had happened? I blame Jimbo for the quarterback recruiting and the quarterback situation, and then it really did seem like his team kind of just lost it and didn't have any fight in them midway through the season. Had kind of given up.
No, there's nothing good you can say about 2017 and Jimbo Fisher. I'm with you.
That's not him as a coach. Yeah. I don't know that 2013 is necessary. That's his ceiling, obviously, when he has this goofy superstar. But I think the 2015, 2012, I think that's Jimbo Fisher as a head coach. Yeah. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's a 12-win season and a 10-win season. They had moments. They were close to winning some games. I just think, there's always going to be a few games where, maybe his quarterback is tight. Maybe he's tight. Maybe he punts it on 4th and an inch from his own 40. He makes decisions like that kind of leave you shaking your head. And they're going to lose a few games every year that maybe they shouldn't. But they're also going to be always prepared. And, I just think he can turn that program into a 9 or 10-win program. I just don't see them ever winning a national championship there. But, again, I've been wrong before sometime. Rarely. I know I was. Rarely. I have a hard time pinpointing it. Rarely. But I know I was wrong some point in my life.
Yeah. What's not been wrong are all the other sports at Florida State. But just how good is the athletics program at Florida State right now? How do they stack up to other universities across the country? We'll dig into that next right here on Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You're locked in to Wake Up War Chant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hope your Monday is going by nice and fast. The show is just about done. It's Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. He's Corey Clark, senior columnist and writer for WarChant.com. I'm Aslan Hajavandi, director of digital media for WarChant.com. All right, Corey, so the softball team won a national championship. The women's sand volleyball team, beach volleyball team. Have we ever figured out?
Volleyball.
Beach
Get
volleyball.
it right, Aslan. Beach.
All right, duly noted. Made it to
No,
the national.
only because Ira gives me grief because I always call it sand volleyball too because they don't actually play on a beach. So I feel like it should be called sand volleyball, but he tells me that's the name of it is beach volleyball.
Fair enough. Whatever Ira gives the marching orders, we follow suit. So there's that whole the Directors Cup thing where not all sports, but maybe you can give us some background on how it's maybe computed or whatever. But I guess there's a kind of a belief that, golly, with softball doing what they did, the men's basketball team being making it to the Elite Eight for the first time in 20 odd years or however long it was, that they got to be creeping up that standings when it comes to adding everything up. What did you find when you wrote your column for WarChant.com?
Yeah, so right now there's only baseball left to be scored, and I don't think any of the teams that are behind them that are in the College World Series can catch Florida State anyway. Florida State, it looks like will finish 8th in the Directors' Cup, which is their first top 10 finish in 5 years. They're usually around 11th or 12th or 13th, somewhere around there. But now they're going to finish 8th, which is a really good year, especially considering they didn't get the kind of years they normally get out of football and baseball. I mean, they really could have been top 5 again. And just to give an idea of what they're up against, so the teams ahead of them, the programs ahead of them are Stanford, who has won it 24 years in a row, which if you have an award that has been won by the same athletic program 24 years in a row, you need to figure out a different way to score it.
Are they gaming the system or something?
So Stanford, because it has a huge endowment, has 36 NCAA sports that they compete at, 36. Florida State has 20. And how the Directors' Cup is scored is they take the top 20 they take your top 20 sports and use those into the formula. And however your top 20 sports are scored, that's where the scoring comes from. They only score 20. So Stanford, for instance, if their football team goes 4-8, well, they just won't score it. They'll ditch that along with 15 other sports and just count the top 20 highest scoring sports on their campus. Well, so they get to ditch 16 sports that don't even count. Meanwhile, Florida State, every sport they play has to count. They don't get to ditch any of them. So anyway, that's why Stanford always wins it, because they're good at a lot of these non-revenue sports, and they have a ton of them, like men's rowing and lacrosse and all that. So anyway, Stanford is going to win it. UCLA is second, USC third, Florida fourth, Michigan, Ohio State, Texas, and Florida State. I mean, that's pretty cool, man. It shows that Florida State really cares about those other sports. They, track and field being back to almost to what it was is a big deal. Those were a lot of points. And then, like you mentioned, softball, soccer obviously is really good. Golf is really good. Tennis was really good this year. They do make a point. It matters to Stan Wilcox. It matters to John Thrasher. It matters to the administration that they're good at everything. And that's the proof is in the pudding, because they are good at everything. Literally, their worst sport this year was probably football from a winning percentage perspective. Whatever 7-6 is, 53, 54%. That's really impressive that at a football school, even when the football team has a down year, they still finish in the top 10 of the Directors' Cup. Something to be proud of, but they're never going to win it, ever, because Stanford is just never going to lose it again.
Good work, man. Good way to be a news hound, Corey. Way to dig through all the numbers and
just
find
what
the
I
truth.
do, buddy, because I care about the listeners, and more importantly, I care about you, and I want you to be informed.
All right.
So you're welcome.
Thank you.
And I don't say this enough, but I love you with every fiber of my being.
All right, it's a little bit much. Folks, don't forget, you can give us a call on the Renegade Hotline. We'll take your calls on Thursday, 850-792-5730. It's also known by the cool kids as 850-7-YAKS-30, YAKS being YAKS. He's Corey Clark. I'm Aslan Hajavani. Jeff Cameron coming up at 3. Have a great day, everybody.